Maximum News. It's crazy. It's great. I'm Max. That's Saib. No intros. Let's go. Maximum News. So, usually these last few months, we've been starting each of these shows with Activision-Blizzard updates. We're going to do that for you real quick. In case you're living under a rock, there's a huge lawsuit going against the company Activision-Blizzard because of allegations of sexual harassment and a sort of a workplace culture that like that of something you would expect inside of a frat house. There's been a really recent development in this case, and it's a really worrying one, Saib. And if if the stuff that's happening here goes in favor of Activision Blizzard, this could mess up the entire lawsuit. This could basically help them avoid true punishment for the stuff that they've been engaging in. So let me lay this out for you guys in a way that's easily understandable. So we're familiar with the lawsuit that was brought against Activision Blizzard by the Department for Fair Employment and Housing, I think it is, DFEH. That's the most popular one that everybody's been reporting on the last few months. Well, there's also another lawsuit that was filed prior to that by the EEOC, which is the Equal Employment and Opportunity Commission. Activision Blizzard was just about to finish settling with that secondary lawsuit on the basis of $18 million. But before they could, the DFEH filed an objection against this settlement, the one that was filed by the EEOC, because this settlement, one of the conditions is that Activision Blizzard would be able to remove any sort of documents from the case that might compromise their moral standing, let's say. And so the DFEH naturally wanted to make sure that this potential evidence could be protected from being destroyed, because as we know, and we reported on last week and one of the episodes prior to that, Activision Blizzard has been accused of destroying evidence that incriminates them. Well, it looks like that objection might not be able to be filed. And it's because of something that the people at the EEOC and the DFEH did that was really basic and really stupid. There are two lawyers who are heading the DFEH lawsuit that worked for the EEOC and were a part of the EEOC's investigation into Activision Blizzard. Now you're like, why is that a problem? Because this is a conflict of interest. It's a violation of Californian law, which for some reason these two lawyers did not seem to realize once they decided to leave the EEOC, join the DFEH, and join this lawsuit. Like, are you stupid? Are you a child? Are you high? Even I knew that. It's not difficult to point out conflicts of interest. You don't have to be a lawyer to be able to recognize the problem here. Now get this. When these two lawyers were confronted by the EEOC, because they're like, what are you guys doing? You're messing this up for us. They were on a conference call or something. They were called up and they're like, what the heck are you doing? Guess what happened? The two lawyers left the call. So they basically pulled like what that one WHO guy did when he was like, oh yeah, is Taiwan its own country? I'm sorry, what? What? I can't hear you. What? The volume, like something wrong. And then connection cuts out, right? So because these two lawyers directed the DFEH, the integrity of the entire lawsuit is now in question from a legal point of view, making the motion to protect evidence potentially unfulfillable and basically just making the entire lawsuit filed by the DFEH brought into question, which Activision Blizzard can use in their defense. So, well done, everybody. Well done. Who would have known the state of California is completely incompetent? Saib, save me from my...
Well, I mean, it's a combination of the feds. As I understood, it's more of the feds that messed this up. Because there's a whole bunch of things that are kind of went on at the same time. One is like this lawsuit gets finished from the feds, and the feds are like, oh, you Blizzard, you're in trouble now. You made, how much money did you make? Oh, you made $8 billion last year? Well, we're gonna, oh man, we got the mother of all haymakers coming your way. We're gonna fine you $18 million. $18 million. All these people that had been, abused for, in some cases, years, forced out from the industry, ruining their careers, all this stuff. We're going to make you pay them like 10 to 20 grand each,
That's the equivalent of flicking a dog on the nose. For something bad that they did.
I mean, it's not even a flick on the nose. It's like you threw a little wad of toilet paper, at their backside, clean toilet paper, and they didn't even notice. Like what? Like seriously, if this is the penalty for screwing people over, you make $8 billion from the hard abused workers. These workers who worked very hard and were horribly abused for years, having to rely on dietary suppressants just to be able to get through work days because they don't have enough money to eat. They're on food stamps as well as working 60, 70 hours a week. And for some odd reason, your high-end buddies, which there are lots, this has been sort of well documented. It's not talked about enough. The amount of high-end upper federal workers that used to work for the feds that now work in Blizzard is actually quite high. And now I've known this for a really long time. And I'm not saying all those people are bad, but I do find it and it's not because there's a lot of them. Like there's a lot of former Fed, especially former CIA Fed that work at Activision-Blizzard, which is kind of weird. I mean, it's a little weird. I mean, how many people from the CIA do you think formerly worked with the CIA now work at a video gaming company? I mean, just pick a number. How many do you think is the normal number of people who do that career change? Just guess. Guess.
Oh, I don't know, 1,000.
No, there's barely 1,000 people who work for the CIA. I mean, regularly. So how many of them are going to retire in the middle of their career there and move over to a video game company? It's
I have no idea, dude. I don't know how many.
Most people would say 3? Three would be a lot. That would be wow, that's super coincidental. That is really bizarre. No, it's well into the high 20s. It's kind of freaky. It's kind of weird. This is something that people don't talk about enough, and I don't know why, because it's really bizarre. It's really bizarre. At any rate, they could take and treat these employees like garbage for so long, and then if the punishment for that, for allowing just some of the most god awful, terrible behavior that somebody committed suicide about, is $18 million when they made it over $8 billion in just the last year and a bit. Okay, well then what's the point of it's not a crime and a punishment. It's a mild bonus tax or I don't know what you might call it, like a speed bump. Because it's not even a speed bump. It's like a pebble on the road on a paved road. It's you don't even notice it. It's how they're not going to notice $18 million out of $8 billion. What? No. So this just sets a terrible precedent. But these two lawyers, I mean, if these two lawyers end up getting fancy squishy jobs at some high-end law firm, or end up disappearing into the Cayman Islands with a couple $100 million, it's
right.
Okay, all right, I guess we know what's going on here, and I hope justice comes, because this is the most frightful thing, when government is essentially ruled by corporations. Fear that, because that's not a good thing.
I mean, it's either that or they're just plain incompetent. And I'd like to think that nobody can be that stupid. So I tend to side with you, Saib. It's there has to be some sort of monetary influence going into what's going on here. I know it might sound conspiratorial to some, but am I wrong to feel that way? Anyways,
I don't think so.
So that's what the deal is right now, guys. Please don't. If you're playing World of Warcraft, just don't. Just stop. Just go play Final Fantasy 14. At least until they show that they've decided to smarten up. Don't play Diablo Immortal when it comes out. And speaking of Diablo, before we move on from this, Diablo 2 Resurrected.
Don't play Diablo 2 Resurrected, but I mean, given the time of the day, you probably can't play anyways.
Yes, exactly. You can't play anyways, and there are people still complaining about it on the subreddit for Diablo 2. They're like, oh yeah, 3 weeks on, I still own this game, I still can't get in. Why do you still own the game? Why are you still trying to play? There are tons of other things that you can do with your spare time. So many games, so many TV shows, so many forms of entertainment. Just stop. Anyways, yeah, Diablo 2 over 3 weeks later. Blizzard has yet to fix the server issues. There are people that are still trying to log into the game that can't. And it's just not good. And it's too bad because apparently a lot of people are saying, yeah, Diablo 2 Resurrected ain't half bad. I mean, the game itself, when you can play it, is apparently pretty good. But, I mean, like, given the way that they're handling all the online stuff and, you know, all the surrounding stuff going around on with the company, it's like, why? Why would you bother? Mm-hmm. Right. Anything you want to say about that?
No, that's, I mean, it's like surprise, right? Like Era 37 was what, one of the biggest like memes of the last like 2 decades. Like I think at some point you could say that it basically invented some of the video game memes. Like, I mean, it didn't invent it, but I mean, it came pretty close, and it's really disgusting. Yeah. So yeah,
it's like this happened with a game, not with the remaster, but with a full-on game with Diablo 3, and you couldn't prepare for when Diablo 2 came out. But why? I don't understand. Anyways, next story. Saib, you picked out this one. What is going on with Kotaku and Nintendo?
So, Metroid came out and was really good, but it was better on the PC. And you might say, oh, Saib, I didn't realize that on the PC, and the answer to that is it's not. And that's kind of what the article in Kotaku was saying, is that, hey, this game is really good on the PC. By the way, thanks to modders and stuff. Now, and this is one of these weird things. I agree that most Nintendo games are better on the PC. I absolutely agree theoretically with that statement. I've never, air quotes, tried it before, but I've heard amazing things from so many people about modding and emulators and stuff like that. Now, they went really hard down that road, and it was the tone and the way that they did it, and then the way that they tried to edit the thing and kind of like cover stuff up about it. The article I'm talking about. Kotaku realized that what they had done is they just told a bunch of people to basically go pirate the game, and that's that part. The way they handled it was just a mess because they're Kotaku and they don't know how to like handle crisis at all. They don't know how to like stand and debate anybody because they've never heard of this thing called debate before. Like, what's that strange thing? You mean two people with opposing, a healthy
exchange of ideas?
Yeah, two people with opposing ideas debating to come up with a better solution or find out which one is the more valid line of thinking. Yeah, they've never heard of that before. So yeah, that's more or less how they handled the article, and that's led to them getting really, really burned in a lot of places, getting just absolutely just a ton of backlash on that. But there were also people that were putting some backlash on Nintendo, and I've been railing against this. I've been railing about this for years. It's like Nintendo, during a time where they were like financially strapped for cash, they were like, what do we do? And they buckled down, they came up with the Wii, and it was great. It's like, congratulations. Now, you guys understand that I could make you like probably 20 billion over the next like few years if they just did a handful of things.
Put it on the PC.
And that was just create a store front on the PC and launch all your games on PC at the same time, and then have bundle bonuses and like ordering of Switches right there on your store that gets shipped right to people. Like, I mean, I hate to tell you this, but there are people who would be more than willing to pay $1,000 to do a big collection of original NES games? Like, what are you doing, Nintendo? Why are you sitting on this immense amount of desire from people to play your games that don't have the ability to haul around yet another electronic device? Like,
I mean, Sony was able to figure it out.
Well, it's not only that. It's like it doesn't even make sense. It's like they have the perfect option. They could run every single NES game, every Super NES game. They could run both of those things entirely off of any phone that anybody's using right now. They could put that onto Steam if they were really lazy about it. They could put it onto Steam and sell like Nintendo Super Packs, and then just list the years and then sell each year for like anywhere between like $500 and $1,000, and people would buy it in droves. Just have a simple emulator or you guys could release more of those miniature consoles that plug into both your PC or your TV or anything, basically, and it just runs the Nintendo through this tiny little micro console that you have. I mean, you could do that. There's hundreds of ideas to resurrect this enormous, massive library of old video games that they mostly own most of them to this day. Like the early stuff, they have like most of the rights to most of those games. And yet they don't. And they don't put hardly any of their Nintendo games on anything. They've never brought some of the most highly demanded games. Like right now, if they brought over like Smash, I'm pretty sure they would be like probably like if they put Smash on just Steam, I'm pretty sure there would be like anywhere between 1 to 4 million people playing that every day.
Oh, absolutely. I would too. Like, dude, if they allowed me to play Super Smash Bros. Melee on Steam, the game that I grew up playing with my friends, and I could kick somebody's ass over in North Korea or India or something, I'd be playing that game nonstop.
Mm-hmm. Although you probably, statistically, you'd lose against them, but no.
Shh! Don't let them know that. They don't need to know that.
But still, it's been shocking for so long that Nintendo refuses to cash in on one of the biggest things they could have cashed in. And the thing is that they could be doing this every few years. Like, I just don't understand. I want to play Zelda 1 and 2. Why can't I play Zelda 1 and 2? Oh, well, it's just not allowed. Like, why? Well, just because. Like, can you explain to me the reason why I can't play my favorite, like one of my favorite games of all time? Why can't I play that somewhere? I could play most of the other games somewhere. I have Jagged Alliance 1 and 2 installed on my computer, for crying out loud. I have Fallout 2 installed on my computer. Why can't I play these iconic old games that I love in their traditional format? And it's like, well, you can. You just have to find a Nintendo and then play it on that Nintendo. It's like, well, okay, good luck with that. You also have to buy an old-fashioned TV, and it's like...
Or get an adapter.
It's like, dudes, seriously, can we just play this on, like, this release? They probably would have hit multiple million more sales if they had released it on PC. I just don't understand. And that's the thing. It's like if they came out and explained their reasoning and said, well, we believe that we want to maintain our hardware, the level of hardware, interactability and blah, 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 and gave a reason for that. I could understand. I could debate that, right? But they don't even say. When you ask them, if you ever get one of them in a news conference, one of the CEOs, news conference, say, why aren't you releasing to the PC? They either do not answer the question or they just get up and leave the room. It's one of the two. It's like, no, pass, or it's just they just leave. It's like, why? There's so much desire to play your old products, but yet you won't budge. And I do not get it. I do not understand.
Can I venture one potential theory? It goes off of a little bit of an announcement that actually came out today regarding the Nintendo Switch Online subscription that they have going right now, and how it's going to intertwine with the release of N64 games and Sega Genesis games coming up pretty soon. As many of you might know that already have a Nintendo Switch Online subscription, for a lot of you, it costs about $19.99 American every 12 months. Well, they're coming out with a new deal, which allows you to be able to play those aforementioned N64 games like Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, Star Fox 64, Mario Golf or Tennis, I think it is, and then Sega Genesis games like Sonic. Check this out. One of the bundles that allows you to play N64 Genesis, and also bundled in with it, whether you like it or not, is Animal Crossing DLC. That subscription costs $49.99 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's to a lot of people that seems like a little bit much, because these are, of course, retro games. They're not as valuable anymore, and plus, not everybody plays Animal Crossing. I mean, it is a very, very popular game. It's one of the most popular in the world, but not a whole lot of people play them. And I think the reason why they choose to gouge up the prices like that is because they know that the only place that people can legally play them is on their consoles. And because people are just such diehard Nintendo fans that they'll do whatever Nintendo asks of them to play them, they'll just continue to do it and stay in business, even if it means forsaking billions of dollars, because it just means less work and less risk involved, right? What do you think?
I would, again, I kind of doubt that that's their reasoning for it, because they haven't moved on this for well over a decade, and it's been well over a decade that they've been having like cash flow issues, and they've been wanting to develop, other things and new hardware. They just can't afford to do it, and the Switch is an incredibly underpowered piece of technology. It really is not that great in comparison to what they want to run, and so it's just kind of surprising again and again and again. It's just surprising that they don't move on an obvious advantage that they would have to fund all of the stuff they want to do. If they want to create the next best console, they're going to need considerable resources to do that, probably more than what they have access to right now. So it's one of those things that confuses me, because even if they wanted to like launch that system and have that as a primary system, they can't, because they don't have the money to, because they just refuse to do something. It is one of the most confusing things to me. I just do not understand why they avoid this stuff like the plague. Doesn't make any sense to me at all.
If they want the money for it, I can tell you, like, the one thing that they need to do that will get them all the money in the world: make a Pokemon MMO. That way you'll get everybody to buy a Switch, and make sure, obviously, make it good. And then you'll have all the money to fund all your creative projects, and you'll dominate the world. Because that will be the only thing that anybody's playing. Remember what happened when Pokemon Go came out? Just imagine that, but with a Pokemon MMO with continuous content and all that crap. They should honestly hire me to be a creative consultant for Nintendo. I'm an absolute genius. Let's move on to this next subject here. We'll get through this real quick. So we obviously, the main subject of last week was that GTA Remastered was officially confirmed by Rockstar. We still don't know anything about how it's going to play, how the graphics are going to look. All we know is that it's going to be coming out sometime before the end of the year. So sometime within the next 2 months, we'll be able to get our first look at it. What was sort of surprising and frustrating to me, however, was that this past week it was announced that the original versions of those 3 games, GTA 3, GTA Vice City, and GTA San Andreas, would no longer be available on their storefront. It would no longer be available on Steam. So once I heard this, I went out of my way to buy all those 3 games, all those original versions, just in case the GTA Remastered version comes out and it doesn't look very good. So that way, if I was inclined to go back and play those original games, I still have the originals and I can use the mods that people have created for them to make the game look even better than the alternative that Rockstar is providing. Side, what do you think about them removing these original versions? Is it does it make business sense in any way? Is it just anti-consumer, like the way that I view it?
I think to a level it is anti-consumer, right? I think anytime that you have a game that you release to the world and then you take that away from people, including people who bought and played it, bought and are trying to run it on a on a device that's connected to the internet, and then you tell them that no, when you refuse to give them access to continue to play despite you closing down the servers. I don't agree with that at all. I think everybody should have, if you buy the product, you should always be able to access the product in some way, shape, or form. You should, if you bought into an MMO, you should have the ability to basically boot up the MMO and host it on your own computer if their servers are no longer live. Yeah. I honestly think that that's the way that legally this stuff should be handled. And that if people are refusing to, to give the players this access to this stuff, it's quite jarring, because again, it's like, oh, well, you're buying a service. It's like, well, yeah, but I'm also buying the
physical copy,
the physical copy, the experience and stuff like that. Like if say this is like I guess a bowling alley is, I guess, the best example that I can bring for this in the real world. If you buy a membership at a bowling club and then you spend like $500 to buy a fancy pair of shoes that you keep at the place, then you buy you get a custom made bowling ball with your father's skull in it, after he was unceremoniously fell down an empty elevator shaft and landed on some bullets. If you take his skull then and put it into the bowling ball, and then you store that bowling ball there, by the way, you get 10 points if you get the reference. If you do that, and then the bowling club is like, you know what, hey, we're closing up shop here, going out of business, and you're like, great, could I get my shoes and my bowling ball back? Well, that's the funny thing is we already sold that off, or we're holding it in storage and you can't get it. It's like, but that's mine. It's like, yeah, the experience of you bowling and your bowling records and that kind of stuff. I mean, I guess that obviously you can't take those things with you necessarily, but there is something to be said that you should be able to access something that you paid for. It's like, yeah, it's just, I know it's a weird thing, and there's lots of, and I mean, it's obviously a debate that it has way more nuance than I'm putting in there, obviously, and the example's not that good. I just really, really wanted to put that one scene reference in there. But yeah, maybe I think this is, yeah, I think GTA removing the original versions and just kind of kicking them to the curb, and then implementing them into their new live service thing that you'll never be able to play offline again anyways, most likely. I mean, I'm not assuming that, or I am assuming that. I'm not stating that is a fact one way or the other. It's just, to me, it feels like they're just rolling that into this massive moneymaker machine that is GTA Online, and they'll find some way to incorporate that into some way, some service thingy, so that when they shut down in the future, you won't have access to your content that you put, your influence of your character and whatnot into the world. That's kind of that's kind of the feel that I get. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's accurate. But to me, that's what it feels like, and it feels blah. I don't like it.
Yeah. Rockstar, man. Remember, like, before GTA 5 came out, they were sort of like beloved for just making these consistently amazing games, but then they got high off of all the money they made. They made more money than Jesus, God, Allah, and the Queen combined, and then they just started doing this crap. Oh, and by the way, Rockstar, if there's any snowball's chance in hell that you're listening to this, your launcher sucks. Do you know how long it took for me to be able to get RDR2 up and running without it crashing all the time, without me having to do all these manual fixes, being on the line with Rockstar support for days on end to get it to work? Yeah, please don't make me use that, please. And yeah, I'm not buying, if I get the GTA remastered, I'm definitely not getting it on PC. Never again. Anyways, a little mini rant over. I got a couple more stories left over, so I'm going to let you take the lead on this, because I'm not obviously in instantiated within the world of tabletop RPGs or any video games that sort of simulate that. So what's going on with this company called Critical Role?
So Critical Role is it's a show where a group of like not major celebrities, like they're good celebrities. Again, so some people don't like some people don't like some of them because of whatever. I think the show is decent. I don't think it's the best thing since sliced bread. I think it's a great concept. I really do appreciate them bringing tabletop gaming experiences to the forefront. I've got to give them props for that. I know that there were other people doing it beforehand, but the fact that they did it, they went all in the way that they had, and the way that a number of the guests and players have built their stories out before, I give kudos for that. And they're very funny. There's some really great lines and really great stuff. The everything from the mind-altering cupcake to some of the scenes with the guy and the sword, the guy who talks to plants. This stuff is genuinely very funny, and it's very funny because people create clips of it online, and Critical Role doesn't aggressively go after them. So again, it's like, I don't think they're the best people in the world. I don't think they're as bad as some people make them out to be. I definitely respect them as people, and I think that they've opened some really cool doors. And I hope that it's not a sign that the whole tabletop thing doesn't become, celebritized. Like, I really don't want to see that. And that would be what I'd say one of the downsides are. But basically, it's just a bunch of celebrities that get together and they host like a tabletop D&D experience. And it goes on for a number of weeks, and they add more characters, change the stories, that kind of stuff. And it's done really well. I would say I have to give them props. It's done really well. Well, they have announced a couple of things. They're getting a TV show, like a new TV show that's like in character, in universe, I believe. So it's like actual like elves and people are going to be running around. That's kind of cool if that pans out the way that I'm hoping it does. But what they've also done is they've announced that they're going to be making a video game, which I'm like, somebody who avidly loves tabletop and really appreciates good tabletop games. I've got to say that I am really excited for this, but I am not that excited for this because they haven't named the studio, or even if they've nailed down a studio to work on the project. So They don't know if we don't know if they're actually going to have this project ready and, ready to go when it's about to take off, right? Like we don't know very much about this. They haven't done a video game before, obviously. We don't know how this is going to work. Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? I don't know. I hope that it's good. And I'll leave it at that, basically. So that's that. And then in other popular tabletop,
hold on. Sorry,
sure.
Let me just clarify one quick thing. So they said that they're going to make a game, yet they haven't secured a company.
Well, we don't know if they have
yet
secured a company. This was the weird. This is the weird thing. So, quoting from the Tech Raptor article, they go, any idea of who Critical Role will be working with on this project is in the air. They have worked with Obsidian Entertainment in the past for Critical Role themed voice packs and portraits based on their Vox Machinima characters. But as for who they could have, there's plenty to pull from. So we don't know.
I'm glad to know that's all you have to do to, announce that you're going to be making a game. And I think with that said, I think it's appropriate to announce to the world right now, guys, it might make you happy to know that I'm working on the new Silent Hill game. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be funding it. I'm going to be working with Konami to get it done. Have I set up any meetings with Konami to, get the rights and work on it? No. Do I have my own team? No. But if this is all it takes, then, I can just make it seem like my dreams are coming true. Sorry, I just found that very peculiar. But more power to them. You know, they seem like a popular set of people. They seem to do stuff that a lot of people enjoy. And based on how you described it, as somebody who's never engaged with this sort of stuff, it sounds charming. And if they can sort of bring their own brand to their own type of video game and do it well, then more power to them. It'll be well appreciated by their fans. And sorry, what was the other thing you wanted to bring up?
Baldur's Gate, yeah.
Right?
So Baldur's Gate, they had their panel from hell yesterday. They are now on patch 6. It's 1 year anniversary of when they launched their initial foray into making Baldur's Gate 3. It's in early access. Act 1 is available for play. That's about it. You can only get up to level 4, which is pretty small. The game is massive for an Act 1. And there's a ton of content, new areas and stuff like that they will be adding into the game when the game actually goes live. We don't know how much more we're going to be getting. They really want to release this game. They've got, typically their last game had 5 acts. One was a minor act, so you had 4 major areas to go and explore. We kind of expect the same thing from this. I'm fingers crossed that the game is as good as it is in its early state. This is the way for anybody who's like, I hate early access games. Why can't they just make a game? I would say that without a doubt, this is the preferred way of making games going forward. Hands down, this is the preferred way for every studio to make a game going forward that has any kind of like online capability or has is working with a large base rule system. This is what I want to see. I think Cyberpunk was a complete failure as far as like what it was supposed to achieve. It's a decent enough game, I guess, but it's not that thing that we were looking for, that thing that we were hoping for. And then the latest stuff coming out for it has been somewhat abysmal, to be honest. It's been really sad. Conversely, with and that game was secret all the way up, right? It was secret. Then they finally put it out and they're like, and then it was just a bomb, right? Now with Baldur's Gate, you have the ability to play a lot of classes, a lot of races, a lot of characters right from the get-go. You can experience their story. You can delve into the mechanics. You can work with a whole bunch of the D&D core system and explore it and create stuff. And there's already tons of mods for it. And it's been going really, really well. And in this, you discover things like, hey, melee characters are a little boring. They don't have the diversification that some of the other characters have as far as like being able to do stuff. Some melee characters, it's like they're going to attack, and that is the turn. I attacked, and there's not really anything else there for them to do in a lot of situations. So the developers are like, hey, we agree. We're going to see what we can do. So they've added additional attack moves, so you can attack in more than one way. So there's more situational situations, and the choice of weapons actually has more meaning to it now.
There's better immersion.
Yeah, way better immersion. And they've added more. They've added more diversity of monsters. They've added more so you're not fighting this. In the initial tutorial area or like intro area, you're on the ship and you're fighting your way through the ship. Now up to this last patch, you only had one enemy type. Primarily, you only really had one enemy type going through. There was some bonus combat that you could get into if you wanted, but it was largely just the same like stuff. Well, now they threw in a new monster, so they mixed that up so that it's not as boring. You're developing, you're interacting with more different kinds of monsters and stuff like that. There were some people who were in that early. Again, it's very much like a tutorial level. It takes you like 15 minutes to get through if you're moving semi quickly. But they've added a reward for people who were noticing that if you could kill this one guy, it was kind of cool and you did get a great sword, but like it was really difficult. And they're like, hey, I kind of want, a better reward for doing this. And so they said, sure thing. So they added in a better reward for doing something that was really, really hard in that early place. And so, yeah, they've been addressing everything. They really take feedback, and they really interact with the feedback quite heavily. And they're expanding things and building up more. And I think it's awesome. I think it's great. And I think this is the future of, I really think that if you're making a big game, a massive game that's designed to be played with lots of people, either in a small group of people, like playing with people, I think this is a perfect thing to do. Going forward, I would highly recommend that every developer chases this concept from this point, where it's like,
if they're going to do early access.
But you're basically providing an interactive demo that's going to be around, that's around for a long time, that you constantly add more stuff to. And then you get that feedback. You're like, hey, what do you think of this? And then you hear people's stuff and you go, that's right. What we were doing before was kind of stupid. And thankfully our community was like, hey, don't do that. That's really stupid. And thank God we listened to them, because now we have a fun interactive system and everybody feels better about the game. It's like, oh my goodness, what a novel concept. Listening to your fans and giving them what they want. Oh my goodness. And coming up with solutions, by hearing their complaints. Oh my goodness. That nobody in the history of mankind has ever thought about this at all, apparently, because when you look at games that have come out recently, they're all, there's so many failures where people were like, yeah, I was expecting you to do this. And then it's not that you didn't do that. It's that you took that idea and you trashed it and you mocked it, and then you walked away. And
the customer's always right. What the heck are you talking about?
It's such a weird concept. It's like, hey, we want, we want this camera angle. We want that camera angle. We want the ability to do this. Hey, we find this really annoying. It's like, oh my goodness, you've listened to that and you've made a better game now. Baldur's Gate, one of the best games. Honestly, I think this is going to be one of the best games for the next decade. In all honesty, I think this is going to set the standard for D&D tabletop experience games going forward. I think there's going to be a whole bunch of games that are going to try and emulate this down the road, and I'm glad and I'm happy with that, because I am so happy with where Baldur's Gate is and where it's headed. That's the most important thing, is where it's headed and what they're doing and what they're incorporating is like, this is what I like seeing. This is beautiful. I love this. The game is open, it's vibrant, and I love it.
So, if you're an early access game, Star Citizen, I'm looking at you. This is the model that you have to adopt. And when Cy was saying, like, listen to the fans, he's not saying you have to pay attention to the trolls or the loudmouth people that are just criticizing your game and don't really have anything constructive to add. I mean, yes, you'll have to deal with those people and you'll have to sort of separate the wheat from the chaff there, but at least that will be better in the long run for you to interact with the fans and figure out where the wheat is, instead of just ignoring them and then letting your game be ruined forever, like so many, like you said, recent releases have been, like Cyberpunk 2077.
I've got to say, just as a last note on this, that one of the most important things that game developers have now is heat mapping. And heat map is where you watch tens of thousands of people play your game at the same time on a sped up thing, where you can kind of look at it and you see where was everybody 3 hours into the game, 4 hours into the game, 5 hours into the game, what quests did they do, and then on repeated playthroughs, what quests did they focus on, what characters did they focus on, what things did they like doing, how many of them built a stack of cheese, literally, how many people just did dumb crazy things, and what was the response to those dumb things, and how were they looked at, from everything from quests to that information. That's what you get from doing an early access, right? Where it's not releasing the game, then it's like, hey, this is in beta, but you pay full price for it. It's like, no, this one they made it clear. It's like, look, don't buy this game if you don't want to go through bugs and stuff like that. This game is going to be here. We want people who are seriously interested in giving feedback and are interested in going on this journey with us. And, that's going to be that journey. And it's like, if you're interested in that, I think that's the way to go in the future. You just work on a small slice of the game, build it out logically, and then you'll have the ability to see what people want and how to address it, and then how to build the game from there. And and I think you get a lot more interaction out of that, and I think it's just generally a lot better than hey, I know exactly what the people want. They want to do exactly what I want them to do all the time because I'm a genius. It's like, nah, most people are only a genius once in their life, and you are most certainly not a genius for the entire duration of your career. And there's a lot of people who are waking up to that very sad reality, both people who make stuff and people who play the stuff that they make.
Saib and I are exceptions to that general rule, though.
Well, I am geniuses. A robot, so
And I am yellow. I mean, I'm literally glowing. I look like a god to most people that I walk by. All right. Well, it sounds lovely. I can't wait to finally play that game with you. And when you get the online version, and you can introduce me to sort of the world of tabletop RPGs, because I am very fascinated. It's something people have been begging me to do. Hopefully, sometime in November, I think we were talking about before the show, we can actually sit down and start doing stuff like that. It's just October is going to be pretty busy with all the Spooktober content.
But in November, the multiplayer co-op is up and running right now, so it's really exciting.
Nice. All right. So that'll do it for us, ladies and gentlemen, for this episode of Maximum News. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Listen, if you liked it, make sure you hit the like button, because that not only tells the YouTube algorithm that this content is worth watching, it also tells the YouTube algorithm that all the other content on this channel is worth watching as well. It is the disability channel that hosts this podcast. They do a lot of great content in regards to promoting people with disabilities. How much I care about that stuff, especially on my own personal channel, where I talk about people with disabilities, people with mental health issues, autism-related issues. And if you want to see more stuff like that talked about, more stuff like that promoted, hitting that like button is a very free and easy way to do so. I want to thank Saib for doing this podcast with me, as always, for all the lovely insight that he brings in, and making sure that we don't miss out on important stories, cool stories like the Baldur's Gate stuff. Saib, do you want to tell people very quickly where they can find you on the interwebs?
The Triple S League, basically anywhere. Twitter, YouTube. And tomorrow, if you I always forget this goes up after our stream. So tomorrow, which will be in the past now, we have streamed this morning some Baldur's Gate 3. Feel free to hop in and check that out.
Cool. And you guys can just find me on all the relevant forms of social media, just at Max Darrett. My name's in the description box below if you have a hard time figuring out how it's spelled. Thanks, guys, again. And until we do this again next week, I want to remind you, you know what to do. Just stay the same color as my skin. Stay yellow. Bye-bye.